If you think about it, it's very easy. The sleeping bags open, you throw them in, you grab the top of the sleeping bag over your shoulder, and that's how they got to the bottom.
Oh my God, Darcy, you are so right. That's exactly. It's like throwing a load of laundry over your back.
Yeah.
And for a mature adult male, a little 8-year-old, little 9-year-old, what do they weigh? 60 pounds, 65 pounds?
If that,
If
depending
that.
on the child.
Yeah. So nothing.
First and foremost, we know this was planned because why go to the trouble of making sure your flashlight could not be seen or heard? I definitely see a man's hand. Okay. I'm guessing 5'10", dark hair, possibly. I don't think it's straight because I've been, okay, here. Look at my funny little picture.
That's your guy?
That's my guy.
Okay, good. I like that picture.
I guess like it's pretty rudimental, but I've got 5'10", and he looks frightening.
Welcome to Seeing Dead People, the slow burn storytelling podcast where our host, Nicola, challenges her psychic friend Darcy to communicate with the dead and unravel historical ghost stories, unsolved true crime mysteries, and all things paranormal. If you want to be spooked, amazed, and entertained, stick around for an astonishing, deep dive convo with the spirits on the other side. Hey SDP fans, just wanted to encourage you to stick around to the end of this episode for an impromptu bit of psychic intuition. After Nicola and Darcy finished recording, Darcy blew Nicola away by offhandedly revealing something really amazing that she'd noticed in photo number 16, another mind-blowing Darcy discovery you won't want to miss. And now Radio Sydney presents Seeing Dead People and episode 58, Ghosts of Camp Scott, the Oklahoma Girl Scout murders.
Hey, Darcy, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, and I'm keen to find out about how you handled this investigation today. That's all I'll say at the moment. And I should ask you up front, because you always nail me later. Any inklings? We had a little conversation before we hit record. Have you done any thought of what's going on?
Usual murder, mayhem, that type of thing.
Sometimes it's not murder. Sometimes it's spooky and ghosty and
Yes.
cool stuff. So you narrowed that in.
This could be a little of both because just the feel of it, that there's a possibility it's murder and spooky.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you, we're heading south and east today, all the way to Mays County in Oklahoma, where, the wind comes sailing down the plains.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, I'm going to let remind our audience, most of the photos we're going to show today are copywritten, so can't show them to the audience. However, I want to remind our audience, number one, this is originally and continues to be a radio show. So use your own imagination is the greatest thing of all for radio shows. But if you really want to see them, and I don't think it's essential, you can Google them online very quickly and catch up with what we're talking about. But I don't think seeing the pics is essential. So let's situate ourselves, Darcy, by looking at our first pics. And I should ask you, have you got the photos?
Yeah, I can see them on my web.
Okay. So we're looking for photo number 1, which is a colorful image of the United States and the individual states outlined and named.
Okay, yep. You've got Oklahoma.
Exactly. It's probably like dead middle of the country, a little bit lower, just above Texas. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know anything much about Oklahoma. How about you?
Other than the movie Oklahoma, no.
Me neither. Is that terrible?
Yeah.
We're today. Okay. I'm going to ask you, do you get any sense from this color block of images for the American U.S.?
No, not at this point.
Okay. I'm going to ask you then, are you much of a camper?
When I was younger, yes.
Okay. Maybe your family was like my family. Your family was probably pretty spooky, but my family, when we were growing up, we'd climb into sleeping bags in a huge circus tent that my parents had got, put it in the backyard. There are a lot of us. And we'd tell scary stories and spooky stories. Okay. And they were like about frightening ghosts or terrifying ones about boogeymen. Did you guys do that in your family? And I bet you if you did, they would be really scary.
There were times, yeah, but we would go, we never had a tent.
Oh, okay.
We had a sleeping bag and tarp. So that if it rained, we could pull it over top of ourselves to stay dry. And we didn't always use the backyard. We would go out somewhere, fishing,
Oh,
camping, and sometimes camped on the side of the road.
cool. Even better. Okay. And did
Yeah.
you tell scary stories and boogeyman stories?
Yeah, all the time, especially vampire ones when we were kids.
Especially the what?
Vampire.
Vampire. Ooh, I don't know if I guess we probably told them vampire stories. If you had a choice between a spooky story today and a boogeyman story today, which one are we going to talk about?
I'm going to guess with the boogeyman. You brought him
Why?
up a few times.
You're right. It is the boogeyman. And it's that classic urban myth that someone comes and attacks young people. And sadly, what we're looking at here, we are at a camp, a Girl Scout camp called Camp Scott. It's 240 acres, dense woods in this county called Mays in Oklahoma. It's really early in the morning, June 13th, and we're in 1977. I'd like you to look at our image number 2, if you wouldn't mind, Darcy. It's a close-up from today's Google Maps of this area. And I want you to see how, and I'm sure it's not much different than when it was in 1977, thickly wooded, forested, non-inhabited area. Okay. You'll see the Camp Scott is identified in the bottom right. So that whole area is Camp Scott, as I said, is 200, almost 250 acres. I've written down, scratched in a couple of things. I've given you a semicircle that says tents in the upper right of it, and then on a line that just with an X that says counselors. This is the area that we're focusing on today. Do you feel anything from that very simple color but pretty dull photograph of densely wooded area from above?
The fact that you have a number 2 written on this and a number 8, I think there were 8 people in the camp or 8 tents. I'm guessing we got a couple of people who have either gone missing or died.
Okay. Well,
not the first time, though.
Sorry?
So not the first time, the looks of it.
Oh, okay. Keep that thought and expand on it when you can. We're very early in the morning. It's 6 a.m. So the sun has just risen. The air is still damp from last night because it was quite the rainstorm. Quite a lot of rain came down, quite a nasty evening, thunderstorms. And there's like an eerie mist that is still hanging about the treetops. And I'm sure you recognize that from your days of camping. Funky and spooky. And you'd think this would be an idyllic spot, wouldn't it be? It's one of many hundreds that kids would have excitedly waking up in their camps. This was the first night of this 2-week camping period. So we're into day 2 officially, on the morning of day 2. The camp is about 50 years of age, so they've been camping in this location for a long, long time. But something's not right this morning at Camp Scott, and never, ever going to be the same again. What happened here? I want you to look at photos 3 and 4. Tell us about these photos. What do you see? And then what do you really see?
Okay. Tents, like the old army type tents.
Exactly.
With raised, with a wood platform.
Yeah.
3. In the one, number 3, it's a black and white. So it's like really bare looking. Okay, I've got one body so far.
What do you mean you've got?
Because I can see a girl in the trees. So I've got 1, possibly 2 bodies. Okay, and there's just the feel of it. There might be more, or maybe I'm picking up on a past legend or something here. I had 1 body next to a tree, 1 inside in the black and white photo. Now, photo 4, it is the color. It shows the leaves. It must be a different time of year because there's leaves on some of these trees. And it's not open the same Still looks the same. The army issued tent with the post. So they must be off to the side, right?
I'm not saying.
Okay.
When you go back, if we could go back to number 3, though, you're seeing a body somewhere in the image of number 3. Where? The one near the trees.
Okay. So over where you have the number 3, if I go to over that way, I
Okay.
can see what I would call a body in the trees. Maybe you can't, but I can.
Okay. And you can
And
also
then it feels like there's one hanging around inside the tent, but I think she's somewhere else too. But like I said, some of this could be a past life I'm picking up on, but this sort of feels like I'm missing something still
okay. All righty.
that I haven't got it all yet.
Okay, fair enough. I'm not surprised since we've only been at a couple of photographs. As you say, we have a rudimentary kind of large canvas tent on a raised platform. It's just like the number of other tents in Camp Scott. There's 7 other ones in this little grouping. Okay.
Yeah.
It has just a flap, overlapping flap as its entrance, so no real security there. We have an 18-year-old counselor who wakes up, gets up at 6 o'clock, and is heading out to have a shower. About 100 yards, she walks away from her tent, and she doesn't get to the shower. What happens?
I'm pretty sure, given the lead up there, that she's found something. Like either found body, found something that shouldn't be there.
You're right. I'm going to let you look at photo number 5 now. It's a black and white photo. Maybe hard to distinguish, but have a look and tell me what you think you can see there. We'll talk about it.
Sort of recognize the plaid from the inside of the sleeping bags. Looks like
Exactly.
there's 3 of them there by a tree.
Yep.
It also looks like they've been covered since. So I'm taking it 3 girls, since it's a Girl Scout camp. There's 3 girls out here.
Okay.
So is one of them, are they in the age range of 8 to 10?
Exactly.
The looks of it. Okay.
Mhm.
This is weird because why would they must have taken them out one at a time.
This
Because
is
there's
what
no
we're
way,
about. Yes.
okay, there's no way he could have managed all 3. Are they absolutely sure the girls didn't decide to sleep outside at night? And then this is what happened.
Okay.
Now, was one of them bludgeoned to death, like beat to death?
Yes.
Okay. Was it with a pipe, a stick? Do you know?
I think there's a discussion about possibly a crowbar and possibly raw or a raw.
Okay.
Okay. Pretty hefty weapon, one way or the other. And it is, as we're looking, it's a black and white image of a tree trunk. And at the base of the tree's trunk to the left are these sort of mounds of, as you had said, checkered material, flannel material, which we would all recognize as being in the old days anyway, the inside of a classic sleeping bag. Okay, and they're just piles there, little rumpling, 3 little rumples. I want you to look at the next photo, photo number 6. We got a bit of a close-up of these 3 sleeping bags. And you'll notice there's something just a little bit to the left
Okay.
that's tucked beside them.
All right. And was the flashlight?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Do you know? Okay. So first impression is they went outside. Second is they believe this is a man who did it, not a woman.
Okay.
Okay. One is blonde, the other 2 would be dirty, like that dirty blonde brunette. Like I said, between 8 to 10 years of age. But this had to have been done one at a time because there's no way they could have controlled all 3 girls.
We'll walk through this. So our counselor, is coming along the road, going to the showers, stumbles upon this little horrible, grotesque lumps of sleeping bags. She's freaked out by what she sees. She immediately runs for help. And when the authorities come and they actually examine these 3 sleeping bags, what do they find?
Are you saying like the three girls, or are you saying that, yeah, they found the three girls, but they all look like they were already dead? I don't think any of them were still alive.
Okay, you're correct there. Now, when you say you really earlier on said you came up with the ages. Now, maybe Girl Scouts could be under 16 and above 8, maybe. I think that's a Girl Scout kind of age. So why did you know or believe anyway that they were on the younger 8 to 10 age size era range and not 13 to 17?
Because of the energy coming off of them, and also in the one photo, and now I'll have to go backwards to find it. Okay, but in the one photo, there was a face of a little girl. So
Is that photo number 3?
just a minute.
Body?
Nope. It was photo number 5.
The
There was a
twisting
face.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a face of a little girl in the grass.
Oh, wow.
And it
Okay.
was too small to be more than 10.
Wow. Okay. Inside these 3 sleeping bags were the bodies of 3 little campers. All right. All 3 obviously are dead. And I'm going to introduce you to them one by one. And I want you to tell us if you can anything about these little gals and, of course, about their last time on Earth. Your heart's going to break when you see these trio of little innocent faces. So I'm just going to warn you right up front there, Darcy. You
Okay.
mentioned our hair color for one of the little gals, and I'm going to let you see image number 7 and tell me if that little gal is what you were thinking about.
She's the face I saw.
Okay, so you're looking at 8-year-old Lori Farmer. She happened to be the youngest of the 140 Girl Scouts at this jamboree, I think they used to call it in the old days.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about this little gal? She's got lovely blonde pigtails. She's got a gentle smile, heart-shaped face. God, your heart just breaks to look at her. What does Lori tell you?
Whatever happened, whatever blitz happened there, it was fast. Okay. She is, like you said, she is a sweetheart. When you look at her, you think of all the possibilities she could have done growing up.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not feeling a familiarity, though. I don't feel like she knew who this person was.
Okay, good. Okay. Sadly, Lori was found pushed deep inside her sleeping bag. She was half naked. She had been struck viciously on the head. You asked about anyone being bludgeoned. She was bludgeoned. And she was partially strangled.
Wow.
Okay. Terrible tragedy. Beside her, in another sleeping bag, I want you to look at our next photo, number 8. And I want you to meet the gal. Her name is Michelle Goose. It's, I think, an arresting image. She's very broadly smiling. She's got dark hair, nice large glasses, and her eyes are twinkling to my way of thinking. And I think she's a bit of a character just based on the look of her, like a bit of an imp.
Yeah. I would say probably would have, again, the idea or concept of what was feasible around her really stands out, but the energy of mischief making would definitely apply to her.
Oh, cool. This gal was only 9 years old. Her name's Michelle. What does she tell you about her last horrendous moments on the earth, if anything?
Again, not feeling a familiarity.
Okay.
I'm not feeling like we know who this. I think the 3 girls probably would have been really close friends at the end of it. All she could think of was her dad for some strange reason.
Really?
Okay. Like they always say, dads are supposed to protect us, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I feel she's thinking of as her dad.
Oh. Tragically, like Lori, her tent mate, Michelle was also discovered partially closed, shoved down into the bottom of her sleeping bag. She had been bludgeoned on the head and she had been half strangled as well. So then we have one more sleeping bag, one more dear little child. We have 10-year-old Denise Milner. I'd like you to look at image number 9. She is lovely, open-faced. She's smiling and she's looking up. Like, to me, she's just the epitome of hope and trust.
Yeah. Okay. With her, okay. So this is a crime of opportunity, but what doesn't make sense is this feels anger related,
Oh,
a jealousy, and they never reported that the girls were raped or anything.
yeah, I'll give you more details after.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. There's
Because
more.
this feels like this is the way I'm supposed to go, but what I don't know if the MO says it's one person, but I'm feeling someone else there as well. I feel like there might be two people,
Okay.
but it was definitely a crime of opportunity. Keep them quiet and move on to the next.
Okay. Does Denise tell you anything about her last moments? What happened to her?
Actually, I keep thinking that they were knocked out, so they don't have a clue.
All
I,
three.
I I feel like they were not present to know what happened to them other than that they were hit.
Oh, that would be a godsend if that were true.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. I'm not picking up. I have an idea of what transpired.
Okay. Okay. That's very interesting because it's going to be a little bit different than what the supposed procedures were.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine that the other two's fate was bad enough, but Denise's was worse. Now, it seems that Denise was killed separately from the first two. It also indicates that she was lying partially nude, her hands bound behind her back with duct tape. She had been sexually molested, as had the other two. It seems they feel that Denise might have been or must have been forced
If
to
you-
walk or be carried to this location beneath this tree. So she was treated differently. So whether she was a target, I don't know, but there's something different about Denise. Why was she treated differently than the other two?
I would have said that maybe she, at which point, if I'm looking at from an investigative, she may have been the target, but I also get the impression the other two were carried, not walked.
Okay,
Okay.
right.
I didn't feel any of them were walked to their destination. That's why it felt like somehow they were knocked out before they got there. But I would have said if they feel she's the one who was treated differently, then she may have been the target in the first place, and the other two were collateral damage. Keep saying it like that, but that's how it happens. If we
Okay.
wake up, see what's going on.
Okay. The investigators soon quickly realized that all three girls were from tent number 8. Okay.
Oh, I thought they would all be from the same tent.
Yeah, and they are. They're from tent number 8. And it happens to be the tent that's the furthest from the counselor's area. Okay. The last tent in that semicircle that I showed you at the very top.
Yeah.
Investigators found a lot of hair that happened inside the tent, but also happened under the tree. It was found that there's blood in the tent, there's destruction, there's damage. There seemingly that at least the first two girls were bludgeoned and attacked in the tent. Possibly Denise was dealt with differently. That's not really known. There was blood on the walls, blood on the floor. In fact, they found a single footprint in the tent, male, size 9.5, I believe. Okay. All three girls were sexually molested, sexually assaulted, not necessarily, I believe, raped, still horrendously assaulted. Now, what I find is amazing is let's look at photo number 10, if you would. It's again an overview of the camp layout. And our little girls were in the area under Kiowa campsite in the upper left, sorry, number
Yeah.
8. There's a little arrow. That was tent number 8. The counselor's tent, as I've written, is down near underneath that semicircle where the arrow is. Okay. And then the bodies were located a little bit as our gal walking in the morning to the showers discovered about 100 yards away from the counselor's tent. But if you look to where tent number 8 is, down to
Yeah.
where the bodies are, it's quite a distance, about 100, 120 to 150 yards roughly. Okay. So this is happening in the middle of the night, whatever, after midnight or something, after 1 o'clock. We've got to have a look and see who's going to be doing this. Who's going to be going into this tent? Now, I can see why you choose this tent because it's the furthest from the counselors and it's also by itself because one side of it is on its own.
Yeah.
So it might be the one you would target, but you're not necessarily going to go into that tent, do some damage, pick up the bodies, drag them
And
across, carry them across 100 to 125 yards through this. We're talking in the dark, pouring rain, thunderstorms, on a nice night, all the way past the tent where the counselors are, adult, to dump them beside this tree.
Yeah.
And molest, it seems, Denise at that location. Not sure why anyone would do that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Can you gain anything from that?
First of all, I don't know why they would have gone so far because it was really easy just to dump them on the other side of the tent with nothing there.
Exactly.
Two, I'm not sure. They're just presuming that Denise was physically harmed at this body location, right?
Yes, I believe they have some evidence, but I don't know the details. It's not
Okay.
clear.
But yeah, it's almost like it was a dare to see how close you could get to that counselor's tent because it really not, or how secure the kids were in a camp like this. But they must have automatically questioned the counselors
Oh, yes, yes.
because how could you sleep through that?
And that's another, we'll talk about this, what happened and why no one heard. But I'm just going to give you some information on what was found. So this flashlight that we saw in image number 6,
Yeah.
the lens of the flashlight had been taped over with black plastic, so hiding the light.
Yeah.
Using masking tape, and all they did was the perpetrator, pinpricked the plastic. So just a tiny bit of light would come through. All right. The perpetrator also jammed some newspaper inside where the batteries were. And I don't know if you can remember, but those clunky square batteries would all make a noise, right? So the newspaper stopped the batteries from making a noise. They got that information, and let's look at the flashlight if we want in photo number 11. I don't know. Oh, I'm going to show you 10A. Sorry. We talked about who carries the 10A is my little description or a picture of who would carry the kids that distance from the kid tent number 8 all the way past the counselor's tent to the body location. It just makes no sense at all to me, unless you're saying the person's on a dare or something, which would be nonsensical. So that's what 10A is. So 11 is a flashlight. There's the masking tape wrapping. It's probably a red flashlight. We've all seen one. And there's the black plastic on top of it. Do you get any sense of feel or anything from a plastic flashlight covered in plastic?
First and foremost, we know this was planned because why go to the trouble of making sure your flashlight could not be seen or heard? I definitely see a man's hand. Okay. I'm guessing 5'10", dark hair, possibly. I don't think it's straight because I've been, okay, here. Look at my funny little picture. That's your guy? That's my guy.
Okay, good. I like that picture.
I guess, like, it's pretty rudimental, but I've got 5'10", and he looks frightening. I've got a mustache. I'm not the artist in the family, but curly hair. I'm wondering if he wore a mask. Because if he's Caucasian, he would glow in the dark.
Think
Maybe
so.
he wore a mask as well.
Okay. Do you see him as Caucasian?
I do.
Okay. All right. Also found was This an area called a tent, which you can see in photo number 12. Really, I'm not tent, sorry, a cave. It's not really a cave. It looks to be like a big rock, and underneath the rock is like a hollow.
Yep.
That's
Where
fine.
someone would sleep.
Number 12, you can see there's a guy leaning against, I think, a
Yeah.
huge rock, and under that rock looks like a place you could hide and be sheltered, and they call that a cave.
Okay.
In that area, and that was later, days later, they found this cave. They found in that area a roll of duct tape that matched the tape from the flashlight, okay, and was also used to bind the victims.
Yeah.
They found a crowbar-sized bloodstained rock nearby, so they think that was used to bludgeon them. They found a long black hair, which didn't belong to any of the three girls, okay. They also found a pair of glasses, which were later found to be from one of the counselors, and they found two photographs which depicted three women. Okay, that's what was found in this cave thing. Have a look at the cave and tell me, what do you see, if anything, there?
I can see what I would think may not be the first time it's ever been used. And it makes me also feel like earlier at the beginning, I said, I feel like this isn't the first time someone's been killed in this area.
Okay.
And that's what it still feels like.
Okay. Alarmingly enough to add to the difficulties that they're experiencing, about 2 months after the murders, 2 months before the murders, our tent was ransacked and a note was left, handwritten. And the note said, "We are on a mission to kill 3 girls in tent 1." At the time, I guess it was being used as a camp, possibly not necessary for these girls, but as a camp. The staff dismissed it as a sick prank. These sorts of things sadly happen. Now, of
Yeah.
course, it seems like a premonition.
Yeah.
And the investigators quickly figured the person must be familiar with the area, as you say, the cave, familiar with the camp, because they must have known what tent 8 being off on its own, where the counselors' tents were, how to get in, how to get out. Not that it was a padlocked camp, because it wasn't, hundreds of acres of land, but it was miles from the nearest town. It was surrounded by thick forest. They would have needed some knowledge to be creeping
Yes.
around there. This little pinprick flashlight, I can't
Yeah.
imagine anything with that sort of thing. So the boot size of 9.5 gives a sense of the size of an individual. But I want to talk about how come no one heard anything.
You did say that it was a stormy night.
Yep.
So there would be noises, but people's not going to go out in the rain to find out what it is. I don't know that I feel like it's a camp counselor, but I do feel like there's a connection to the camp because there's something else going on there.
Okay.
I would say if they had been drinking, maybe they were in a bit of a stupor, sleeping. But I put it down mainly to all the noises happening with a thunder, lightning storm. But then you think of that, the shoot of lightning, it's going to light the whole place up.
Yeah. The
So-
risk taken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I don't know about you, but maybe it adds to the perpetrator's thrill
Oh, yeah.
kind of thing in a night like that. Like, to me, I wouldn't be going out to do this kind of horrendous job in a pouring thunderstorm with lightning going on in a camp in the dark. It just doesn't appeal to me. Obviously, I can't see how it would appeal to someone else. Like, it just seems to me the worst conditions possible. Let's go out and murder 3 and essentially 3 little girls in the worst conditions possible.
Yeah.
Investigators came up with some theories, of course. They, like you said, the storm provided cover. The heavy rain, thunder covered the noises. Plus, you're out in the wilderness. You're not used to sounds that happen in the
Yep.
wilderness. Might be an animal or two, or a hooting owl, or falling tree, or whatever. Okay. Another theory is that the perpetrator drugged the girls. Do you get any sense from the 3 that they were in any way drugged?
No, I'm not feeling drugged. I feel like I was smacked. Like I feel I was knocked out, but not
Not by drugs. Okay. And in fact, no drugs were found in their systems, though, of course, it was more rudimentary testing in those days, but still no. It's felt, of course, that the killer must have stalked the camp, must have known the camp. So, of course, it's premeditation. And as you nailed it right away when you said, who goes around with a flashlight so
Yeah.
blocked up and changed that it'll only show a tiny pinprick of light? So obviously somebody was planning this. They knew the location of the tent being the furthest away from the counselors, but they still didn't avoid the counselors per se. They traipsed right straight across the front. I know it's densely wooded and everything, but still, who knows what could happen in the middle of the night? People stumble out to go to the bathroom. People stumble out because they're afraid. People stumble out because there's a lightning flash and they think they're going to get struck. Anything can happen at any second to light you up, literally, as you're undertaking this horrendous trio of murders. So I'm flabbergasted. Occurred the way it seems to have occurred.
I am too, because like you said, there's all these scenarios that could have transpired. And my thinking is, yeah, who doesn't get up in the middle of the night with a full-fledged flashlight to run to the loo because you want to get there before the bears get you?
Except you're right. And then, okay, let's talk about how the person, if it is one person, and that's yet to be decided, how does that person accomplish this? As you said, there are 3 girls, and normally there would be 4 in the tent. There were 4 in every other tent. It just happened the girl in their tent was coming the next day. So they just happened to be 3 in this tent. Okay, so you choose this tent for whatever reason. Is it because of the girls that are in the tent? Is it because of where the tent is located? I don't know. Because how do you know which tent which girls are in until the last real minute? I wouldn't think at camp on the first day. Think of the mayhem of 140 girls coming to camp for the first time. What excitement! What tent are you in? Running around from tent to tent, never going to bed until you have to, sneaking out, seeing the other tents, all that kind of stuff. So you'd never know who was really in what tent. I don't think the person would know there were 3 people in the tent, 3 girls, who they were, what they looked like. Do you think the person knew that?
If he was stalking the camp, he would know that there's only 3 girls. And if the girls were all sleeping heavily, I could see him looking in the tent and counting bags. And that's why I feel this was blitz, because he would have had to knock them out to be able to work with all 3 girls.
Okay, I like that comment because supposedly, this has not been proven, the girls in tent 7 said a man opened the flap of their tent in the middle of the night and then closed it again. They saw this image. Now, whether that's boogeyman talk, whether that's made up, whether that's a nightmare, who knows? But it's possible that's exactly what happened. And that's what that person did, was look into the tent and saw 4 sleeping forms. And thought, oh, somehow, I still don't know how they would have known 3 would have been in that last tent, because darkness comes down, but not early in June, obviously. So it stays light till quite late. I guess that person could be skulking around and noticing, finally, only 3 little girls go in tent number 10, number 8. So they go to that tent. Okay, so you're coming into the tent, 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is. You got this dinky little pinprick of light. You're peering into this tent. You've got some weapon with you. What do? You walk in and go, bang?
Absolutely. Knock them all out before the noise can be made. Because my guess is they're all asleep. And it's like I said, a blitz attack. You'll have to work fast to keep the noise level down.
Okay. What is the point of that then? What is the perpetrator's goal? To knock out or kill immediately 3 girls, and then to, I hate to say it, have fun with the bodies afterwards? Is that the plan?
There are people like that out there. But I think the idea here was to knock them out, maybe roast them, but maybe the person didn't know how hard. Sometimes when adrenaline's rushing, you're not thinking, oh, I've got to only tap them lightly.
You can overdo it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so then all 3 have been knocked out, let's say. Then you've got to.
We went in and you said that they feel the girl, two of them were killed right in the tent.
Yep.
The third one, maybe he could move the first two because they're smaller. And the third one, he had to do one all by herself because she's a little bigger than the 8-year-olds would be.
You're right. But a larger child. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was old. Yes. Okay. So you do your thing with at least two of them. Maybe the third one is still unconscious. So what do you jam the little ones into a sleeping bag and carry them in the middle of the thunderstorm and rain in the dark all the way over to this beneath a county and dump this?
Maybe reasoning isn't thinking here, but if you think about it, it's very easy. The sleeping bags open, you throw them in, you grab the top of the sleeping bag over your shoulder, and that's how they got to the bottom.
Oh my God, Darcy, you are so right. That's exactly. It's like throwing a load of laundry over your back.
Yeah.
And for a mature adult male, a little 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, what do they weigh? 60 pounds, 65 pounds?
If
something like
that,
If
depending
that.
on the child.
Yeah. So nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool to get to that idea that they're at the bottom because they were slung over in gravity. And
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe not as difficult to do as I had originally thought because I hadn't got that image in my mind. So here I am trudging still with a 50-pound weight over my back in the dark with a pinprick flashlight through the woods and then stepping over trees and limbs and stones, banging my face into trees, all the way to dump them beside this one tree.
I'm wondering here whether the intent was to dump them there or whether the intent was to remove the evidence. But that's as far as I could go by the time I moved 3.
Okay, can
Think you're packing 60 pounds, let's say, and you've got so far, and you know you got to go back and get 2 more, and one's probably closer to 90 pounds. So you go get the other one and you put them there. You get the third one, put them there, and then you're going to move them again. But at that point, I would tell you they probably got startled and ran off.
Now that has some real sense to it. So you're thinking initially perhaps this individual was going to keep taking them out?
Yes.
But
I don't think the intent was to leave them.
that wasn't the intent.
I don't believe so.
So the job wasn't 100% finished.
Yep.
Oh,
I
wow.
think they were supposed to go farther with them. And I'm looking at your little map, and depending on where in relationship to that little cave thing was, where are they going to go hide them?
Okay, the cave was quite a distance away. To be a yak would take you a long time. I don't think you'd easily do it. Certainly not.
Is there a road or a river close by?
There are both. So whether there's a vehicle, whether there's a boat access, I don't really know exactly the terrain, but it's pretty rough. Okay, I like that. Those are 2 really smart things you come up with. Why they're at the bottom of the bags, and why perhaps they were dumped there because that was middle of the journey.
Yeah.
It wasn't finished yet, but it had to be finished. The person had to take off for fear of. Okay, that's good. Now let's talk about who might have done it. Of course, authorities scrounging around trying to find anybody and everybody and look up possible related individuals, sexual offenders, whatever, molesters of children in the area. And they come up with a name and they follow through on the name. And I'm going to really test you here because I love doing this. Going to show you 3 images of 3 bad men from the same era. Okay. They're mugshots, black and white. And I want you to look at the 3 before you tell us, if you can, who you think is our perpetrator. But let's go. So we got 13, 14, and 15. I want you to look at them. Tell us about the individual so our audience can see through your eyes. And then tell me who is it.
So 13, he's, I'd say square face, brown eyes, but looks of things. It's hard to tell in the black and white, black hair, Caucasian, or
Yeah.
of mixed blood. I would say there's mixed blood here.
I think
And he's not he attractive. There's no two ways about that. I'm not sure. He's got the curly hair I expected, but it's too long.
okay. All right.
Okay. And then you said I gotta go to another
Let's have a
email.
look at 14.
Okay, we have again, looks like a mixed blood, Asian American. He's got the short hair I would expect. Again, square face, but more of a pointed jaw. So they suspect him because he is Asian.
Okay.
I-
Now I'll tell you, to make it fair to you, out of these 3 photographs, only one is our possible perpetrator.
Yeah.
The other 2 I've picked
Okay.
with the investigation. Okay. Nothing to do.
Well, Asian guy is
What number are we talking about?
13. No, 15. Oh, so I went 15, not 14. Okay.
Okay. Yes. Let's talk 14 and then we'll talk 15.
Okay.
I thought when you said Asian, I thought that's not 14. Let's look at 14.
No, 14, he's got a mustache, which I did draw on my
Yes,
picture.
you did. No, you didn't.
Yeah. And he almost strikes me like a cop.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But he's blonde. That's
Yes,
not
yes.
what I'm expecting. I'm expecting dark hair.
Okay. So then let's look at 15 again. You've looked at
Okay.
15. Let's go 15.
15, like I said, Asian dark hair or mixed blood. I would go with 15.
Now, what?
I don't know. There's just something about the look or why they're accusing him. And part of me thinks that they got the wrong man, but they feel they have the right man. And it is either him or someone who looks remarkably like him.
And why do you say that? Because can you see the person in your mind?
I would have said the curly hair guy.
The first
Except
guy?
his hair is way too long.
Okay.
It's short hair.
Okay.
Okay. And he doesn't, I think the first one reminds me of a model.
Yes. He's definitely a nice looking man.
Okay. And this one strikes me as 15 strikes me as a hardworking person. 14, he's got psycho eyes. I just don't know. I'd say no.
Okay. So you're picking 15.
Yeah.
Drum roll. Okay. You are correct. 15 is a man called Gene Leroy, Hart. Number 13, the nice looking fellow, is Rodney Alcala, a serial killer.
Oh, really?
Yep. 14 is a guy named Randy Kraft, another serial killer of the 70s era. And 15 is our guy, Gene Leroy Hart, called Gene Hart. He was a Cherokee man, so mixed blood, you're right. He was a convicted rapist who'd escaped from prison 4 years earlier and was still loose. They thought well of him in the regards as the perpetrator because he had earlier crimes that were really eerily similar. He kidnapped and raped 2 pregnant women 10 years previously. He'd used duct tape. He'd used rope to bind them before leaving them to die, but they'd survived. He'd escaped in 73. This is 77, so he's been on the loose for about 4 years. And locals believe that he was hiding within the area. There was a Cherokee reservation nearby. Perhaps he was being supported by clans, perhaps not, who knew, but he was certainly on the wind, out on the wind, as they say. So a massive manhunt ensues. And believe it or not, it takes them 10 months to find the guy. They finally find him and hiding in a cabin in the Cherokee reservation or nearby it. And they link him to the evidence in the cave, including the duct tape and the photographs. Remember I mentioned there were 2 photographs of 3 women. They weren't the 2 women that he'd raped, but they were 3 of the women that he had been criminally involved with. Okay. They felt Gene Leroy Hart, was the right guy. You think he's the right guy?
No.
Okay, I'm going to show you another picture of him to see if you can find it any better. Here he is at 16. He's being walked handcuffed by sheriffs, it looks. Does this tell you more about Gene Hart as a possible perpetrator?
No,
No?
the MO is not. He attacked pregnant women. These are
Right.
kids.
I
You don't cross the line.
I wouldn't think, not that line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hart is put on trial. Okay. With the evidence that they have. And I'm going to, before I tell you what the jury decides, I'll let you look at one last shot of him. Number 17. He's looking more spiffy now. He's got a suit on.
Yeah.
A bit later, time wise. Would you convict this man of the horrendous murders of these three sweet little gals?
I'm going to say no, but there's a possibility they did because they wanted it. They wanted closure for the family.
Okay. But you don't feel there's prove this from your
No, no. Looking at him, he looks smug and 17, but I don't think he thought he was going to get convicted either. But the MO doesn't fit. Yes, there is circumstantial evidence, but the MO doesn't fit.
Okay, interesting point. Despite circumstantial evidence, the jury acquits him. I think much to the consternation of the law authorities, but early to the community because he was well known in the community and part of the community. And I think they were like you, thinking he wasn't guilty. Anyway, he was acquitted. However, just because he was acquitted doesn't mean he got away from
No.
the whole justice. What happened to Hart?
He probably ended up in jail for his previous crimes and for running away from justice. So I don't know if he got electrocuted or not, but I definitely feel like he did time.
He did. He went back.
Yeah.
Go
Did
ahead.
someone get electrocuted?
No.
No, okay.
Nobody here anyway.
Maybe one of my other lovely modelers psychoized.
Oh, might be. I haven't even looked at what happened to those two dudes.
Yeah.
Could have been put down. There's no doubt. Our guy Hart went straight back to prison, from which he had escaped 4 years earlier, to continue serving, as you said, his previous sentences. And believe it or not, he was sentenced to between 145 and 305 years
Wow.
for his horrendous crimes of rape, kidnapping, and burglary from the past.
Wow.
Wow. So this is why you want to escape.
No kidding.
But
He's never going to see fresh air.
no, but he didn't escape the real justice, Darcy. 2 months later, died of a heart attack in prison.
Oh,
Gone.
wow. You know, what goes around comes around.
It's exactly right. Now, since then, it's been considered not really a solved case. He was acquitted, therefore nobody found guilty. In 2022, Oklahoma authorities were able to do some more DNA research and testing, and the results have shown that they cannot exclude, as they say, Gene Leroy Hart. They can't exclude him. They don't exactly him, but they can't exclude him.
Yeah,
Why do you think that?
because there's heritage. I still feel like I'm on the right track when I say that there is a possible familiar link.
Okay.
And I can't do it. But he looks like, but not him.
So you think there's somebody else with a link, a DNA link to Gene Hart that
Yep.
was the real perpetrator?
Yes.
Do you?
That's why they can't eliminate him.
Okay, yes, because his DNA would be at least linked somehow. Do you
Yeah.
think that person did it on their own?
I want to say no so bad. Okay, I want to say no. I think there's some help, some connection. Definitely not a flat out no.
Okay. From Oklahoma's perspective, they're letting it lie with Hart as being guilty.
I can see why.
Yeah. And there's no other evidence for them to pursue at the moment. Something positive did happen, Darcy, in the long run. The parents of two of the children, Lori's mom and Michelle's dad, which I found interesting because you noted the dad, they both began to work very hard on protecting and supporting victims' rights and have been involved in passing legislation to provide support and to support victims' rights. So advocating for parents of murdered children,
Yeah.
because really in the past, it was all about the perpetrator and not much about the victims when the trial was undertaken.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's changed. And that's what they've been able to from a positive perspective. And I'll just leave us with a last little very poignant note. Denise actually wrote her last letter to her mom. Obviously, it was unfinished, written the night she died. She was hesitant to go to camp. She wanted to go with some friends who were supposed to come with her. And in the end, they bailed. And her mom
Oh.
encouraged her to go. Can you imagine how awful that mother must have continually felt? But this is what little Denise wrote. Dear Mom, it's just like a classic letter from a kid from
Uh-huh.
night camp. This is day one, the evening of day one. I don't like camp. It's awful. The first day it rained. I have 3 new friends named Lori, Michelle, those are her 2 tent mates, and a gal named Ann. Mom, I don't want to stay at camp for 2 weeks. I want to come home.
Oh,
Love, Denise. Can you imagine her poor mom getting that little note?
yeah. Can you imagine how guilty she's going to feel?
Oh, they all do.
Yeah.
Thinking they were doing the right thing for their little one to have a great time, which many millions of us have had, going to
Yeah.
camp and experiencing what it's like. And these 3 little girls never left Camp Scott.
Yep.
Their little ghosts, I think, still linger there.
I would agree with that.
Wow. Thank you, Darcy. Then that's our discussion about the Girl Scout murders in Oklahoma. You disagree with the law or that
Yeah.
he's guilty? You think it's someone else who's related to him, though? That's quite interesting. I've not found in the material or research that they've come up with a familial relationship to anyone. But certainly, I think most people would say it's unsolved. They
Yeah.
do not
I
know that
would agree. It's unsolved.
But you came up with some really neat things there. The idea that they were at the bottom of the bag, the idea of the kind of person it was, the MO being so different from what Hart was normally doing. That's a big deal. I would agree with you. You don't go from raping pregnant women to attacking little girl. I don't get it.
You don't.
And your idea that his DNA may not be the right link. You've nailed a couple of really good things here, Darcy. So thank you.
Hey, SDP fans, just wanted to add a really neat psychic little tidbit here. Just after recording, Darcy sent Nicola a blurry image of a man she felt had the right energy and looked to be the real Camp Scott murderer. Darcy found this man in photo number 16. It's a simple black and white shot of Jean Leroy Hart being accompanied by police officers. But if you look closely, there's a guy who resembles Hart, positioned in the background, in the far upper right corner. Nicola didn't even notice him, but once she saw him, she was amazed at his resemblance to Hart. How cool is that? Another mind-blowing Darcy discovery. Thank you for listening to Seeing Dead People, where goosebumps are guaranteed. We would love to hear from you with questions for Darcy about her psychic process or suggestions for other mystifying situations you would like us to investigate. Please shoot us an email to info@radiosidney.ca with Seeing Dead People in the subject line. New episodes air on our website, radiosidney.ca, on the first Saturday of every month. Episodes repeat Saturday nights at 8 p.m. and Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., both Pacific time. All episodes are available as downloadable podcasts at our website or on our YouTube channel, Nicola Furlong Mysteries. I'm Dorian Mortis, weirdly keen on seeing dead people. This has been a presentation of Radio Sydney.